Okay. Hi, everybody. The Bright Spotters, we are back again. It's Chris and Shane. Today, we want to talk about kind of the day-to-day, what it takes sort of to get writing done. The habits that make a successful writer, fitness writer specifically. And also how to kind of walk that fine line between like you go to the gym and like you're not up for it, but you have to train, so you just go to the gym and train. If you have a writing assignment, you might not feel like writing, but it's work that has to get done, so you have to get it done. So we're going to kind of go over how to stick to it, how to get yourself going, how to keep consistency, and just how to build the routine. That's, should sound familiar to some. Shane, what are your thoughts on healthy writing habits?
Healthy writing habits. So I remember when it used to take me, literally used to take me a week to write a blog post. And it was only like 800 words. And so I remember, and it's an old saying that any progress is good progress. So when I first started taking writing seriously, my goal was just to write a sentence every day. And usually it would be more than one sentence, because once you got started, you keep going. So it's like we're like workout progress or workout goals is just say, well, I'm just going to do one more rep today. So that's kind of attitude I took to my writing. I said, I'm just going to do one sentence today. I'm just going to do 2 sentences today. So with writing, and particularly if you're at the start, you got to set yourself a low bar and just go, okay, I'm just going to write one sentence or one paragraph, or I'm going to come up with one idea. And usually what that does is just creates a snowball effect. It's like when like with a client, you're trying to get into the workout habit, and then they start working out, and then automatically they start eating better because they want to fuel their bodies correctly. This is kind of like maybe fueling your mind correctly, to draw that analogy. But when you set yourself a small goal, a small bar, particularly with your writing, and it just kind of snowballs. And it just kind of grows, because you're obviously not going to sit down and write one sentence, because boom, you're there, you're at your computer and you type it away. Oh, this is, yeah. So kind of what you're doing, that's obviously just one way to build a habit, but that is a great way, is basically to set yourself goals and set yourself small goals. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I love that you progressively overloaded your writing. You increased volume over time, so I appreciate that. Where did you get that idea? I think that's a huge thing. Is especially if you're new to writing and it's not the most comfortable skill, and you might not think you're a good writer. You need to, like you said, start low. You start with the empty bar, and you train with the empty bar, and you practice with that, and you get the technique down. And then over time, you do a little bit more, and you push yourself a little bit more. It's the same idea with writing. If you're not comfortable or confident in your writing, start with a paragraph, start with a sentence. Like great writers, like Stephen King has aimed for 1,000 words a day. That's not a ton. That's maybe a page, maybe 2 pages, big font. So you don't need to try to write an article at a time. That's one luxury of writing, is that unless you're on a deadline from a publication, you have your own time to work on it. If you're writing your blog, you have your time to invest. You can chip away at it. So go for a paragraph at a time, a sentence at a time. And like you said, it instinctively, you'll go beyond that because you just get in the rhythm. One sentence feels good, so you start writing the second, and you're not going to stop mid-sentence, because that's crazy, because OCD. So you finish that second sentence. And then that's
Yeah.
half of your thoughts. You might as well finish your thought. And then next thing you know, you probably have a couple of paragraphs done. And you're that much closer to completing whatever writing project you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So
That's
a
good
lot of
point.
it is, yeah, a lot of it is just consistency and grinding away and chipping away and just doing piece by piece and not getting overwhelmed by the big picture goal of writing an article. You're not going to deadlift 495 immediately. You've got to deadlift 315 first. You got to deadlift 225 first. You got to deadlift 95 first. So don't try to write a 3,000 word article in one sitting. Very, very few people can do that. It's just not, also, you'll burn out. Like if you
Yeah.
spend 8 hours trying to write, you'll just burn out for the day or two.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. And this has been pointed out by one of my editors, and I've read that the great writers sometimes only wrote like 200 or 300, 400 words a day. I think sometimes we can get, I mean, and this is with me too, you can get focused on quantity rather than quality, right? Because you want to you want to get a certain amount done, and you rush to get it done, and then the quality goes down, right? Making silly mistakes, you're tired, and that's the same. That's the same in the gym, right? With our workouts, it's like I want to do 12 reps, but I can only get 8 good ones. Then you stop at 8, right? It's kind of the same with writing. I think as, as, as good as it is to sit down and to force yourself to do it, there also comes a point where the quality goes down. So that's where we got to really focus on is the quality. And you do that kind of just by slowing down. Sometimes you just need to slow down. And I've been told that several times from editors. It's just like, Shane, just slow down. Just slow down. Go back, read through your work, pick up the errors, then submit it. Don't feel like you have to be in a hurry just to get everything in. So I think particularly when you're starting out and you're starting to build the habit, don't focus on quantity, focus on quality.
I think that's huge because again, I think I've said before is that if you submit, your goal should be to submit if you're writing for publication a good quality first draft. Like you don't want your editor to have to do a ton of work on whatever article you have written and give to them. So focus on quality, get that good first draft ready to submit, and it's all uphill, downhill, which is the better one. It's all good stuff from there. So submit a good piece. Don't make those little mistakes that can happen when you get eye fatigue and brain fog and just trying to write too much. It's junk volume. It's just too much writing at once. So take your time, do good work, and send in good work or post good work if you're writing for yourself, if you're self-publishing on a blog or social. You don't want to have to hit submit and then check your post a day later and catch errors that have been posted because it's already up and out there and people have seen it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to publish poor work. That's it. I think part of it also, like these are ideal circumstances working under, building the habits and building consistency. But you do need to have some flexibility, not in the quality of work, but in your approach sometimes to the work. This is a lot more if you happen to get like a writing assignment from a publication, from an outlet that says, hey, we want you to write about kettlebell snatches. Can you do that? If you're not totally familiar with kettlebells, you might not be comfortable writing that. And there might be a right idea for you to pass on that project. Or if you're moderately comfortable and you know how to do a kettlebell snatch, it might be worth going outside of your comfort zone and trying to write about that. Like I was asked one time to write about the Zercher squat, probably my least favorite exercise, because I think it's a silly exercise.
Anybody's least favorite exercise.
Who's that?
So it should be everybody's least favorite exercise.
It should be. Pain tolerance should not be a limiting factor, but I'm ranting. But so I was asked to write about the Zercher squat. I personally and professionally don't like the exercise. I don't prescribe it for or suggest it to clients, or didn't. But I tackled it. I wrote how to do it, why to do it, the pros and cons of doing it. So it wasn't my favorite movement. I maybe could have passed and been like, nah. But I pushed myself. I wrote something that I wasn't, not that I didn't know how to write about it, because, you know, like I keep saying, the trainers know you have the information, you have the knowledge. But it just was one example of, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have done it. If I was writing on blog, I wouldn't have done that. But it's out there. It came out pretty good. And sometimes you have to put yourself in those situations. Yeah.
Is it like the old fake it till you make it?
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. So yeah, when you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is fine. Right? I think that's great. And that because we're talking about habits today, that's a great habit to have, because that's where growth happens. It's where growth happens in the gym, right? So it's like, for our bodies to get bigger and stronger, we have to go, hey, we're going to have to push it. And that kind of the same flows on with our writing. And when we're trying to build habits, it's like, I don't really know about this. Well, then do the work and research this a little bit, right? Sit down and see where it takes you. So on your recommendation, I'm reading Stephen King's book on writing. And he writes, basically, you don't know, there's no magic idea fairy. You don't know where it comes from. Sometimes you got to let the writing lead you where it takes you, so to speak. Sometimes you don't have an idea, or you don't really know what you're going to write about. That's why I suggested just sitting down and having that goal of writing 1 or 2 sentences a day. Because when you start, your brain recalls it, right? You like we've talked about before, you have the knowledge, right? We're all trainers, we know. So it's just a matter of basically accessing it, right? And start building that with small habits, with the writing, saying writing 1 or 2 sentences will spark thoughts, because you're there and you're in the moment, and then it flows. Well, that's how it is for me anyway. And I think, is it how it works for you, Chris? How
No, yeah. No, it is. It's I mean, that also, you know, that idea applies regardless of the genre of writing you're doing. Like, we're talking fitness writing. Stephen King is talking fiction writing. But on the most basic level, writing is writing. You're transcribing your ideas to an audience, whether it's about killer clowns, whether it's about barbell exercises. You're getting your ideas out there. And you might have an idea that, you know, this is an exercise I'm going to describe, and these are some squat cues I'm going to give, and you might not have them fully fleshed out, but that's why we suggest doing an outline. You know, getting your bullet points out there, getting your headline, whichever way you want to start, getting some idea to start the spark to get the writing going. And then you sit down and you show up every day, do a little bit, tackle it one piece at a time, and over a couple of days or a couple of weeks, if it has to be, then eventually you get done. You get all of your information on the page. Then you can let it sit and reread it with fresh eyes and do some self-editing, and then post it or send it out to publish, whatever. But it's that habit, it's consistency. It's just, like you said before, not trying to rush through it to get it done, because that's not going to work. You're not going to fit 15 sets of training into 10 minutes, unless you take some shortcuts like circuits, whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to put time in to get the good stuff done.
John Goodman, the PDC guy. So the way because he's written 12 books and he's got one coming out soon. So he's written a lot of stuff, and that's on top of everything else that he does. He's mentioned on several occasions that he would basically set himself up the night before to write, so he'd get his coffee. And even Dan John speaks about this. He set the coffee pot, have his computer sitting at the table, this, that. So it kind of sets the stage, it sets the habit to get up and get going. Now, if you're like an organized person, that's great, right? If you need to sit down and set the habit, then get it all ready beforehand, so you don't have to wake up. It's like setting your gym clothes out the night before, right? You wake up, your gym clothes are sitting on the desk. Oh, I've got my clothes ready. I better go do my workout because I'm ready. It's kind of like the same with writing. So if you're like a really organized person, you only have a limited amount of time because you have to train clients and what have you, then setting something up the night before gives you that frame of mind to get up, do it, and get going, right?
I think
if you're like a free flow person, kind of like me, then that probably doesn't work, right? Being organized and getting it all ready and all that kind of stuff, right? That's why I like basically working. That's like working in spurts. That's the way I kind of work. I like, okay, I've got to do that. Boom, I'm off. Sit there for like half an hour and get it out. So if you're a disorganized person, kind of like me, just having access to your computer, pen and paper, whatever, right? Put it down, get it out there, go with the flow. So really just kind of, we do talk about habits, but it's a little bit of personality as well. So you got to basically go with your personality. If you're organized, get it ready, right? If you're kind of like a go with the flow person, always have access to a pen and paper or your computer, because when that happens, it happens. And if you don't write it down, you're old like me, you forget about it.
same. No, that's huge. You covered so much ground there. Pre-planning the night before is a huge thing. People talk about laying out your gym shoes and your clothes and stuff the night before. Dorian Yates, the GOAT, would have his hat that he wore on chest day and his shirt that he wore on back day, and Guns N' Roses played on leg day. He had routine, and it was Pavlovian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in the shadow. It's in his book, one of his books.
Got it.
And it's Pavlovian. It's you see those and they trigger, your mindset starts. And I think Stephen King wrote about it in Non-Writing. It's you have the little setup. He has the little hat that he sets up to bring his muse out. And it's just, you have these little habits that just trigger and flip a switch in your head, and you see that, you smell the coffee, whatever, and you just know it's time for work. Like, I know when I have to sit down and get a bunch of writing done, I need jazz music on. I can't have music that has lyrics because I can't hear other words because I'm trying to think. But I need some kind of noise, and white noise doesn't work for me. So I'll put on like Miles Davis or something like that, some instrumental jazz.
That's perfect. You like Bosch?
I'm just like Bosch. Tattoos are next.
Yeah.
So I know for me, if I get that going, if I hear Bitches Brew on YouTube, it's writing time. That's it. But I'm also old and forget things. So if I'm out and about and I have an idea for a line that I want to fit into an article or whatever, I use my notes app. I write it down in notes.
It's perfect. Take note of that, people. Notes app. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I have like notes all over the place that I want to fit this line into this article. This would be a good line. Whatever. This is a good idea for a topic. I want to contact this person for an interview. Whatever idea pops up if I'm out and about, you need to be flexible. Like Shane said, you need to know yourself and what kind of habits will click for you, and play around, experiment both ways to see what you like best. No comment.
Yeah. So for me, funny you should have jazz music on. I mean, I don't really have anything on or any background noise. But for me to get into a habit, I've got to move around. For me, it's movement. I was like, I like pot around the house for like half an hour cleaning up to get in. That's my cue. It's really weird, and people who listen to this probably gonna think I'm a weirdo, and yes, I am. But that's my thing. I think, and that notes app is your thing. I think some people are too busy following other people's advice and not finding out what works for them. And I think if you get anything from this video, is you got to really, yes, you got to build the habit, you got to build consistency, but you really got to find what works for you, right? Having jazz music on might not work for you, right? You can try it and go, no, I don't like it. But the fact is, you have to find it out. For me, it's pottering around the house doing housework, as weird as it is, or throwing frisbee with the dog. Something that sets the stage to sit down and get into the habit. But you really got to find the time to find out what works for you, right?
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's, we're obviously talking writing here, but that kind of applies to any skill you want to develop. Whether it's in the gym, whether it's cooking. Like my brother-in-law is basically a pitmaster. He smokes meat like crazy, and he just
All right,
crazy.
I'm on the next flight up. No,
He's in Florida. He's closer to you than me. But he is hardcore into legit slow barbecue. I don't do that. I make meatballs from scratch and cook them in the sauce all day. I'm Italian food. I'm whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to find, what kind of cooking you do best. Find what kind of writing you do best. Find what type of resistance training you do best. You a bodyweight guy? You a calisthenics person? Are you whatever? Not a calisthenics person? So it's all self-experimentation and figuring out, like you said, just figuring out what works for you. And that only comes over a course of time and a matter of trial and error. And not like, again, just like the gym, you don't try it for days at a time. Give something a fair shot. Try a particular routine for a few weeks and see what results you get. If you're really just dreading it, try something new. If you're not getting the results you want, if you're not getting words on the page, try a different approach. But you have to, it all comes back to, it's not sexy, but it comes back to putting the time in and spending time working on your craft of writing. As a personal trainer, as a business owner, you do the same thing but social. Like, you don't have to be on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and X and Threads and YouTube and Bumble, whatever the hell. Like, figure out which medium works best for you.
That's an excellent point.
Cool. All right.
I don't know if I can add anything to that, Chris. What do you think?
I think we can wrap up. I think we did good. It's habits. It's nothing new. It's build habits through consistency and trial and error, and put the work in. Don't overwhelm yourself trying to do too much at once, and keep an eye on quality output, not just output. Cool.
Good advice, Chris. Awesome.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. You always bring it. And you do. Anybody has questions, you can always email us. Please email us, thewritespotters@gmail.com. So we're on Facebook and Instagram. We're on. That's it. And YouTube @thewritespotters. And we will catch you all next time.
See you guys.